Reports have surfaced that Zendaya has been experiencing a growing sense of unease regarding Sydney Sweeney's increasing closeness with Tom Holland, who is not only her co-star, but also her fiancé. Insiders who are familiar with the situation have commented on how the tension between Zendaya and Sydney has become more noticeable, especially as the entire cast of Euphoria prepares for the highly anticipated promotion of the show's third season, which is set to premiere on April 12th. According to these sources, Zendaya's discomfort began during the previous year's filming, when Holland, who has a reputation on set for being approachable and sociable, was often seen chatting and spending time with Sweeney in between takes. One of the insiders remarked that Tom's personality naturally draws people in, making it easy for him to strike up conversations with anyone around him, and that this is something everyone on set has observed for a long time. However, those seemingly harmless interactions between Tom and Sydney apparently started to bother Zendaya, who, according to people close to her, felt a subtle shift in the dynamic. She was said to have noticed Sydney laughing more than usual at Holland's jokes and seeking his company during breaks, which didn't go unnoticed by the rest of the cast and crew either. The atmosphere on set reportedly became somewhat tense as Zendaya, who is usually known for her calm composure, began to act more reserved whenever Sydney and Tom were together. Multiple crew members recalled moments when Zendaya would excuse herself from group gatherings or find reasons to keep busy whenever she saw Sydney and Tom getting along. This shift in Zendaya's behavior was discussed in hushed tones among the production staff, many of whom were concerned about how these interpersonal issues might affect the chemistry required for Euphoria's complex storylines. Subscribe for more inside stories just like this. As the days of filming continued, more incidents began to pile up. For example, during one particular lunch break, Sydney reportedly invited Tom to sit next to her, which led to a candid conversation about their upcoming scenes. Zendaya, who had always enjoyed sharing lunches with Tom, was observed choosing a seat further away that day. Sources said that while she maintained her professionalism on camera, off-camera, she grew more withdrawn, preferring to spend her downtime in her trailer or with other cast members she felt more comfortable around. Behind the scenes, crew members started to speculate whether Zendaya's unease might spill over into her performances, but those close to her insisted that she remained focused, determined not to let personal feelings interfere with her work. Meanwhile, some members of the crew tried to reassure Zendaya that Tom's friendliness towards Sydney was nothing out of the ordinary, but the subtle changes in her demeanor suggested otherwise. Not long after, rumors began to circulate that Zendaya had confided in a close friend about her worries. She was said to have expressed her discomfort about Sydney's attempts to spend more time with Tom, mentioning that she found it hard not to notice the new dynamic developing between them. The friend, according to sources, encouraged Zendaya to trust in her relationship with Tom, reminding her that his outgoing nature was simply part of who he was, rather than a sign of anything more serious. Still, Zendaya couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that things were changing, especially as the show's promotional tour grew closer and the cast would need to spend even more time together in public. Meanwhile, Sydney's rising popularity in Hollywood had meant that she was often the center of attention during group interviews and red carpet events. This added a new layer of complexity to the situation, as Zendaya started to feel overshadowed not just on set, but also in the media. Friends of Zendaya were quick to notice her reluctance to engage in certain group activities and her tendency to avoid situations where she might be photographed alongside both Tom and Sydney. Insiders revealed that even during press junkets, Zendaya would sometimes choose to sit apart from Tom and Sydney, preferring to answer questions on her own or with other cast members. The tension became most apparent during a promotional photo shoot, where the photographer asked Tom, Zendaya, and Sydney to pose together for several shots. According to those who were present, Zendaya seemed visibly uncomfortable, keeping her distance and offering only polite smiles, while Tom and Sydney appeared more at ease, joking and chatting between takes. After the shoot, sources say Zendaya left early, skipping the planned group dinner that followed. The situation did not go unnoticed by the show's producers, who began to worry about how this dynamic might impact the promotional campaign. Subscribe now for more exclusive updates on Hollywood's biggest stories. As the promotional tour kicked off, the trio was often scheduled to appear together at interviews, fan events, and press conferences. Observers noted that Zendaya remained professional throughout, but her interactions with Tom and Sydney were noticeably more formal than in previous years. Tom, for his part, reportedly tried to bridge the gap by including Zendaya in conversations and group activities, but his efforts were met with mixed results. Sydney, meanwhile, seemed to be unaware, or at least unbothered, by the underlying tension, continuing to engage with Tom as she always had. Some sources suggested that Sydney was simply focused on doing her job and promoting the show, rather than paying attention to any behind-the-scenes drama. However, there were also whispers that Sydney had noticed Zendaya's coolness, and that she had privately asked Tom if everything was all right. Tom, according to those close to him, reassured Sydney that Zendaya was simply under a lot of stress due to the demands of the show and the public attention on their relationship. Despite these reassurances, the atmosphere remained strained, particularly during group interviews where Zendaya's answers were more measured and guarded than usual. Fans also picked up on the subtle distance between the three, with social media posts and fan forums speculating about the cause of the tension. Some fans pointed out that Zendaya had stopped posting photos with Tom and Sydney together, fueling rumors of a rift. This speculation only intensified when Zendaya skipped a major promotional event, citing prior commitments, although insiders suggested that her absence was due in part to her desire to avoid further awkwardness. As the promotional campaign continued, the cast was required to travel together for several days, attending back-to-back events and interviews. During one such trip, an anonymous source claimed that Zendaya and Tom had a private conversation about the situation. The source said that Zendaya expressed her feelings openly, telling Tom that she was struggling with the amount of time he and Sydney were spending together. Tom reportedly reassured Zendaya of his commitment to their relationship, emphasizing that his interactions with Sydney were purely professional and friendly. Following this conversation, those close to the couple noticed a slight improvement in Zendaya's mood, although she remained cautious and continued to keep her distance from Sydney whenever possible. Tom, for his part, made a conscious effort to balance his time between Zendaya and the rest of the cast, hoping to ease the tension and maintain harmony within the group. Meanwhile, Sydney continued to focus on her work, participating in interviews and fan events with her usual enthusiasm. Despite the underlying drama, the cast managed to present a united front in public, ensuring that the show's promotional campaign remained on track. However, as the tour progressed, there were still moments when the tension threatened to resurface. For example, during a live Q&A session with fans, a question was asked about the cast's off-screen friendships. Tom answered first, mentioning how much he enjoyed working with everyone, while Sydney echoed his sentiments, adding that the cast had become like family. When it was Zendaya's turn to respond, she paused before giving a brief, polite answer, avoiding any mention of specific cast members. Observers noted that the exchange underscored the ongoing awkwardness, even as the cast tried to maintain a positive image. Subscribe to stay updated on the latest backstage dramas. As the tour approached its final days, some insiders reported that Zendaya had begun to relax slightly, choosing to focus on her own well-being and the success of the show. She was seen spending more time with friends outside of work and engaging in activities that brought her joy, such as traveling and photography. Tom, meanwhile, continued to be a supportive partner, making sure to check in on Zendaya regularly and offering reassurance whenever needed. Sydney, on the other hand, remained dedicated to her craft, using her growing platform to promote causes she cared about and engaging with fans both online and at events. In the end, the cast managed to complete the promotional tour without any major incidents, although those close to the situation acknowledged that the underlying tension had not completely disappeared. As the premiere date for Euphoria's third season drew near, fans eagerly awaited the return of their favorite characters, unaware of the real-life drama that had played out behind the scenes. Insiders believe that Zendaya, Tom, and Sydney will continue to navigate the complexities of their working relationships, with the hope that time and understanding will eventually help ease the tension. Until then, those who witnessed the events firsthand remain fascinated by the intricate dynamics at play, knowing that the story behind the cameras can sometimes be just as compelling as the one unfolding on screen.